Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be talking all about software testing. Looks like you're thinking about jumping into this world yourself. We got a ton of articles and career guides you sent us, so let's really figure out what it takes to make it in software testing.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really exciting time to be in software testing. The industry is just booming right now, and software testers are more important than ever.
Yeah, so first off, why is software testing so important? I mean, I use software every day, but I don't really think that much about the work that goes into, keeping it all running smoothly.
Yeah, I mean it's easy to take for granted, but imagine if the apps on your phone crashed all the time, or if your online banking software wasn't secure. I mean that would be a disaster. Software testing is about way more than just like finding bugs. It's about making sure that the quality is good, that it works the way it's so to, that it's secure. It's about managing risk and protecting users.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, it sounds like a lot of responsibility. What kind of person thrives in this kind of job?
I think you definitely have to have an eye for detail. And you gotta love problem solving. I mean, those bugs can be really sneaky. You really gotta be like a detective, always on the lookout for clues.
So it's not just about being, technical, it's about having the right mindset too, huh?
Oh, absolutely. And you gotta be a good communicator. You're gonna be explaining complex technical issues to, developers, project managers, and sometimes you gotta explain it to people who aren't even technical.
Okay, so software testing is important and it needs a mix of technical skills and soft skills. But where do you even start? What kind of education do you need? Do you have to have a computer science degree?
Well, I mean, it helps to have a background in computer science, but it's not the only way. There are tons of software testers who come from different backgrounds. Remember Alice, the psychology grad we were talking about?
Yeah, her story's really interesting.
Her analytical skills from studying psychology were like super valuable in software testing. And she just developed those skills through online courses and boot camps. And now she's a great tester. So even if you don't have a computer science degree, you can still get into the field with the right training and dedication.
That's awesome. So, those transferable skills can really be useful. But let's get practical here. What technical skills are companies looking for these days?
Well, knowing how to program is becoming more and more important, especially if you're interested in automation, which is a big trend in software testing right now. Knowing languages like Python, Java, or JavaScript can really give you an advantage.
So, it's not just about clicking buttons and trying to break stuff anymore. You actually got to know how to code.
Yep, that's right. You got to be able to understand the code that you're testing and maybe even write your own automated tests.
Wow, things have changed. You also mentioned some testing tools, stuff like Selenium, Jira, Appium. What are those all about?
Oh yeah, those are like essential tools in software testing. So Selenium is really popular. It's a framework for automating web applications. And then you got Jira, which is used for tracking bugs and managing projects. And then there's Appium, which is specifically for testing mobile apps.
Hmm.
If you want to be an efficient tester, you got to master these tools.
It's like your whole toolkit for finding and squashing those bugs. So when I think about careers, I always wonder about, growth potential. What's the career path like in software testing?
Well, there's a lot of different paths you can take. A lot of people start as manual testers. They do a lot of hands-on testing, simulating what a user would do. And then as you get more experience, you might move into an automation tester role where you'll be using code to run tests automatically.
So as you move up, you start using more code in your work.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's roles like quality assurance analyst, where you're making sure that the software meets certain quality standards. And then, later on, you might specialize in something specific, like security testing or performance testing.
It's cool that you can start general and then get more specific as you go. Speaking of experience, how important is it to have hands-on experience before you apply for your first job? It seems like everyone wants experience, but how do you get it if you can't get hired without it?
That's the catch, right? But there's ways to get experience. Internships are a great way to learn. You could also contribute to open source projects. They're always looking for people to help test and find bugs. And don't forget about personal projects.
Personal projects, like what kind?
You could create your own little apps just to test them out, or you can test existing apps and document your process. It's all about showing off your skills.
So even if you don't have work experience, you can still show what you can do through personal projects and open source contributions.
That's awesome. You mentioned Layla's story earlier.
Oh, yeah. Her internship at a healthcare software company was huge for her. She got to test electronic health record applications, and she learned all about that industry. That niche experience made her really valuable.
So finding a niche is a good idea. Absolutely. So you've got the job, you're getting experience, and you want to level up your skills. Now what? Well, the tech world is always changing, so you got to keep learning. You need to stay up to date on new tools, new ways of doing things, new trends, going to conferences, webinars, connecting with other professionals, maybe even getting certified in a testing methodology.
Okay, continuous learning. Got it.
Yeah.
You also mentioned certifications. Tell me more about those. Like, what are some of the big ones in software testing?
Well, there's the ISTQB, the International Software Testing Qualifications Board certification. It's recognized all over the world. Covers everything from basic stuff to more advanced topics. And then there's the CSTE, Certified Software Tester. That one's more focused on practical skills and experience.
So you can choose certifications that match your goals. It's like proof that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it shows employers that you're serious about the job. Okay, but let's be real. What about the challenges? What are some of the tough things testers face every day?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It can't all be sunshine and roses, right?
Well, one common challenge is dealing with limited resources. Some companies don't invest enough in testing, which can lead to time crunches and not having the latest tools. You have to be resourceful, advocate for what you need.
You got to wear many hats, detective, diplomat.
Exactly. Another big one is dealing with changing requirements, especially in agile environments. Things can change quickly, so you got to adapt. You got to communicate effectively with the developers and make sure your test cases still apply.
Sounds like flexibility and communication are key here. You also mentioned complex debugging. That sounds like a real headache.
Oh, it definitely can be. Some bugs are super hard to reproduce, and you just want to pull your hair out. Meticulous documentation and knowing your debugging tools are essential.
I bet. You're like a digital Sherlock Holmes piecing together clues.
Totally. Sometimes you got to get creative with your debugging techniques. Remember Rahul? He used tools like Fiddler to analyze network traffic and find those hidden issues.
Yeah, he was like a code whisperer talking to the software.
His dedication paid off. He found the root of that tricky bug and saved everyone a lot of trouble. Okay, so we've talked skills, challenges, and career paths. Now let's talk about a big difference in software testing: manual versus automation. What are the differences and how do they work together?
Yeah, let's break that down.
So manual testing is all about thinking like a real user. You're going through scenarios step by step, looking for glitches or things that don't work right.
Like putting yourself in the user's shoes, trying to find those weird edge cases.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What about those unexpected things a developer might not have thought of?
That must be a test of your creativity. Okay, so what about automation testing? How's that different?
Automation testing uses code and special tools to run those boring, repetitive tests automatically. This is great for regression testing. You want to make sure that new code changes didn't break anything that was already working.
So it's like having a robot do the boring stuff so that you can focus on the more interesting things.
Yeah. It frees up your time.
Yeah.
You can focus on exploratory testing, usability testing, things that need human intuition and creativity.
It's like the perfect partnership, humans and robots working together. But do these two types of testing stay completely separate, or do they overlap sometimes?
Oh, they definitely work together. They complement each other to create a more complete testing strategy.
Can you give me an example of how manual and automation testing work well together?
Sure. Let's talk about Lucy. She started out as a manual tester, but she quickly realized how important automation was becoming.
Yeah, makes sense. It seems like it's the way of the future. So what did she do?
Well, she learned Selenium and JavaScript, and she actually used those skills at work. She created an automation framework that streamlined a bunch of the repetitive tasks her team was doing.
Smart. So she wasn't just learning for fun, she was actually using it to make a difference.
Yep, and her boss noticed. She actually got promoted. Her story shows how valuable it is to be able to do both manual and automated testing.
That's awesome. It shows that you can't just get comfortable. You got to keep learning and embrace new technologies.
Totally. It's like a treadmill that never stops.
Haha. I like that analogy. I think that's a good place to stop for now.
Sounds good. Take a breather, and we'll come back and talk more. So, you're thinking about getting into software testing, huh? We've talked about the skills you need, some of the challenges, and all the cool career paths. But what does this all mean for you?
Yeah, that's the big question. It's easy to talk about this stuff in general, but like, how do you actually succeed in the real world? What are the key things you want our listener to remember?
I think the most important thing is to remember that software testing is like a crucial part of making software. It's not just about finding bugs. It's about making sure the software is good, protecting people who use it, and managing risk. And the more we rely on software, the more we're going to need good software testers.
You've mentioned risk management a few times. Can you explain that a bit more? What do you mean by that?
Well, think about it. Software is everywhere, right? It's in our phones, cars, medical devices, financial systems. If software fails, it can have huge consequences. It can impact people's lives, businesses, even whole industries.
Whoa, okay. Now those bugs are starting to sound a lot more serious. It's not just about a game crashing or an app being a little glitchy. We're talking about real-world impact.
Exactly. Software testers are like the front line, making sure the software we use every day is safe, reliable, and does what it's supposed to. They prevent those disasters from happening.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. It's not just about making an app look pretty or a game run smoothly. It's about protecting people. That's a big responsibility.
Absolutely. That's why software testers need both technical skills and those soft skills.
Mhm.
Problem solving, being ethical, all that stuff.
Speaking of ethics, that's something I wanted to ask about. It seems like there are a lot of ethical considerations in software testing, especially when you're dealing with sensitive information.
Yeah, for sure. Testers have to think about the consequences of what they do. They need to make sure that everything is done ethically. For example, if you're testing a healthcare app that has patient data, you need to be super careful about security and privacy.
So it's not just about finding bugs, it's about making sure the software is developed and tested responsibly. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and it's getting even more important as software gets more complex.
I always thought of software testing as being like purely technical, but it sounds like there's a human side to it too.
Definitely. Software is made by people, for people, and testers make sure that the software works for the people who use it and that it's safe and ethical.
I like that. So for our listener who's thinking about this career, what advice would you give them? What should they focus on as they start out?
I think the most important thing is to be curious. Software testing is always changing, so you got to keep learning. Don't be afraid to learn new things.
You've mentioned continuous learning a lot today. It sounds like it's really important in this field.
It is. And it's not just about new tools and technologies. It's also about, learning different testing methods, maybe even specializing in a specific area that you find interesting.
So find your passion and become an expert.
Yeah, got it.
What other advice would you give?
Don't be afraid to, get your hands dirty. The best way to learn is by doing. Contribute to open source projects, build your own apps, just to test them. The more experience you have, the better.
So be proactive, seek out opportunities to learn, get that experience. How about networking? Is that important?
Oh, yeah. Networking is huge. Go to conferences, join online communities, connect with people on LinkedIn. Building relationships with other testers can open doors, give you new ideas, and give you support.
It's like having a whole group of people who get what you do.
Exactly. And mentorship is important too. Find someone who's been there and can give you advice. It can really make a difference.
So be curious, be proactive, be connected. That's great advice. It sounds like being a software tester needs a mix of technical skills, soft skills, and a real passion for learning and solving problems.
It does. But for the right person, it can be a really great career. You get to be a part of something big, you make a difference in the world, and you always get to learn and grow.
I like that. It's not just a job, it's a way to make a difference. Speaking of making a difference, you mentioned software testing as risk management. Can you give me some specific examples of how testers have helped prevent bad things from happening?
Oh yeah, there are tons of examples. Software testing has saved lives, protected businesses, you name it. For example, in healthcare, testers have found dangerous flaws in medical devices that could have been fatal. In aviation, they've tested flight control systems to prevent crashes. And in finance, they've helped secure online banking and protect people's money and information.
Wow, that's really impressive. It shows how important software testing is in all aspects of life.
It does, and it reminds us that what we do as testers really does make a difference.
We've covered a lot today. It's clear that software testing is way more than I thought. It's always changing, it's challenging, but it's also really rewarding.
I agree. It's an exciting field. And if you're up for the challenge, it could be a really fulfilling career.
So for our listener who's thinking about taking the leap, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
I'd say if you're passionate about technology, you like solving problems, and you want to make a difference, then software testing might be for you. It's a challenging field, but it's also very rewarding. You can
Yeah.
really make a mark. So go for it. Take on the challenge and never stop learning.
Awesome advice. I think it's time for a quick break, and then we'll come back for our final thoughts.
Sounds good. Let's recharge and wrap things up.
All right, we're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into software testing. You know, it's amazing how much software impacts our lives. It's literally everywhere.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, we're using software constantly.
And it's only going to get more and more prevalent.
Definitely.
That's why software testers are so important. I mean, they're the ones making sure all this software we depend on actually works, making sure it's safe, reliable, easy to use.
Yeah, they're like the guardians of the digital world. They protect us from all those annoying bugs and glitches that can drive you crazy.
Love that. So, for someone who's thinking about becoming one of those digital guardians, what's like the most important thing they should know?
Hmm. I think it's important to remember that software testing isn't just a job, it's more like a way of thinking. You have to be critical, curious, and really care about quality. You got to think like a user, anticipate problems, and be creative about finding solutions.
So, it's not just about checking things off a list or running some automated tests. It's about really understanding the software, what it's supposed to do, and how it affects the people using it.
Exactly. You're an advocate for the user. You make sure their experience is good, safe, and enjoyable.
You've talked a lot about soft skills. Could you say more about those? Like, what specific soft skills do you need to be a good software tester?
Communication is a big one. You have to explain what you find to the developers, project managers, and everyone else. You have to be able to explain technical things in a way that anyone can understand.
So it's not just about being techie, it's about explaining all that tech stuff to normal people.
Yeah. And you have to be good at collaborating. Software testing isn't a solo mission. You work with developers, designers, product managers, other testers. You got to be a team player.
It's like you got to be a diplomat, a communicator, and a team player all at the same time.
Exactly. Oh, and don't forget about being adaptable. The tech world is always changing, so you have to keep up with new tools, methods, and challenges. Be flexible, open-minded, and ready to learn new things.
It sounds like you're constantly learning, always adding to your skills and knowledge to stay current.
Yeah, pretty much. That's one of the things that makes software testing so cool is always pushing the limits, always innovating, always challenging you to learn and grow.
So it's not an easy field, but it's definitely rewarding for those who love a challenge. Before we wrap up, let's go back to something you mentioned earlier, the future of software testing. What are some of the big trends and technologies that are changing the game?
Well, one of the biggest trends is artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning, ML. These technologies are being used to automate more and more of the testing process, like generating test cases and even finding bugs.
So it's like AI is becoming your new testing partner, making things more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about automation. AI and ML can analyze tons of data, find patterns, and even predict problems before they happen.
Whoa. So AI is giving testers a superpower, like being able to see into the future of software development and see what might go wrong.
You got it. And that's only the beginning. AI and ML are still developing, so we'll see even more cool uses for them in software testing.
That's awesome. It seems like there's so much to be excited about in software testing. Are there any other trends worth mentioning?
Oh yeah, the shift left approach is getting really popular. Basically, it means doing testing earlier in the whole software development process instead of waiting until the end.
So it's like testing becomes part of everything, not just a separate step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just smart. The sooner you find and fix those bugs, the better. It saves time and money in the long run.
It's like, stopping those bugs before they have babies and take over.
That's a good way to put it. The shift left approach often goes hand in hand with agile and DevOps methods, which are all about collaboration, automation, and delivering software quickly.
So it's like everyone working together to make things faster and more efficient.
That's the idea. And with software getting more complex and things moving so fast, these methods are becoming really important.
Well, this has been an awesome deep dive into the world of software testing. I've learned so much about what it takes, the challenges, the rewards, and what the future holds. What's your final message for our listener who's hopefully feeling inspired and ready to jump into this world?
I'd say if you love technology, enjoy solving problems, and want to make a difference, then software testing might be the perfect career for you. It's always evolving. There's always something new to learn, and you get to work on things that really matter. So go for it. Embrace the challenge and keep learning.
That's perfect. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your expertise. And to our listener, we'd love to hear from you. What part of software testing are you most excited about? Share your thoughts with us on social media, and maybe we'll deep dive into that topic next time. Until then, happy testing, everyone.